Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, can you see my screen? Because I've prepared just a capture an image where I present all the different components, and here we'll have to add some modeling to present to handle the different error. So let's say we have two client, the gRPC and the REST client. Currently, that's what we have in yes. And then when you send a REST client request, it goes onto a controller. Then the request goes into blueprint runtime service. Then we are planning to do is to add a throw exception on all the. Oh, there are some noise that I kind of disturb. Yuri, can you maybe mute yourself? Yep, thank you. When the request come from the controller, it's sent into the blueprint runtime service. So what we are expecting now is to all the time was when an error occur, we will throw an exception. Then you have for the different kind of request, you have exception handler for REST or for gRPC. Then here will be the model of our error. So we will have one CGS error object that will have the status, the timestamp, the message, the bug message, and here is the key point where we will keep all the different CGS command component error, because when an error is shown, sometimes you have like more than one different error that was thrown before. So we want to keep it in a list, and it should also show the component that was involved in the request. So how the CGS component error will look will be something like the component name and then the catalog, because we think about having a catalog that will maintain all the list of different error and the error code also, and the message will be provided also. So the error catalog is fine just here. Then in the catalog we will have a kind of module, the function involved, and the error code. The function here means, for example, we are talking about resource resolution. We are talking about the netconf component. This could be the different function that could be shown. So at the end, we will always have the same CGS error code that will be returned to both REST client or gRPC client. And of course, if the request doesn't have any error, it will return with OK. Yes, with 200 OK. So basically, this is the simple modeling that I have to present here. Just the key point here is that we want to always return the same object CGS error based on a catalog that we will provide. So we will maintain a list of catalog in database that will keep all the different for all the component, all the function, the different code error, and also differentiate the error is for the gRPC or for REST.
Okay, okay, got it, got it. So finally, what is your assumption right now? I'm trying to correlate with the existing handling and the new way of handling, right? Yeah, existing handling, it talks about only single error, and then you want to have a chained error. Okay, that's a high level that I could see. And another important point is having of error catalog, right? That is I'm aligned with that, because we thought already itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's fine. Yeah, that exactly that we need. We can discuss about that further. That is also I'm fine with that error catalog. And exactly and that modeling, okay, how you are modeling that, still I'm not clear about that. Okay, the error catalog management is different, but how you are modeling, whether you are going to model the errors with respect to the component in our node templates, that kind of modeling that you are trying to do, or it's like internally the component knows that what kind of error message or the error code that it has to return, so that automatically it picks that error code and then it can return. So in that way, just in a message perspective, you want to look at error code, or just a component level modeling and blueprint level modeling, you want to include that error codes? That is the only question that I have.
Yeah, it will be the component error modeling that we'll go through. So basically, we will always have an error based on a component that a component error modeling that we will have for all the different components, and those will be referred to the error catalog.
Exactly. No, there is a slight difference here. Okay, so the catalog management or whatever you are trying to say, it's like it should be in a database, right? You are trying
Yeah,
to say it's a
yeah.
database. Okay, and if you are trying to model that in a database, okay, how you are going to represent the same thing in a component? Okay, so just by ID management, or just by, or taking that entire error modeling to that node template. So the catalog, that is the only question that I have. Okay, how you are going to maintain the catalog? The catalog should be maintained separately from that component modeling, or it should be part of the node modeling. That is the point I want to understand. So
Okay,
you
okay.
get my question?
Yeah, I get your question. So you mean here, for example, here we have for the CGS component error, we have the error catalog. You mean whether we have an ID to refer to the catalog, or to have all the model here? That's your question.
Yeah, my question is like either one way that we can take that. Okay, one is having a CDS. It's like for an entire system, the CDS system or entire CDS cluster itself. We want to manage a error catalog. So it means like, so we are going to maintain a UI, and then we are going to maintain a database, backing database, so that the error code and then all the information. So what is the error message? Okay, it's like a string templating error message that we are going to have, and along with that a recovery pattern or guidance pattern, okay, that we are going to manage, and along with that, okay, it's like if there is any action driven or something like that, some DSL kind of thing which can auto recovery. That is the future. That's leave about that. So minimal level of catalog you are going to create along with that UI, and it should be part of our designer itself. So designer itself, whenever you come there, and then you can try to create a error codes and error messages completely there, and then that error code we are going to use it in inside the component. Okay. So it means like for each node template or node template implementation, that is a component implementation, either it may be a functional or a script implementation, that error code that we are going to use internally. Okay, and during that error, during the error processing, that we are going to return that error. Okay, whenever it happens, okay, that error that we are going to return. The only advantage that we are trying to get, it's like based on that error code, you can go back to that error catalog and look at what is the error and what is the recovery pattern. Okay, so that you can look into that. That is the only advantage. It's like a mapping from component perspective, what error happened and what is the message or what is the information that I want to look and how to come back from that error. Okay, other than that, okay, so we don't have the any other purpose of managing the catalog. So if you try to look into that, okay, I don't see that managing that error catalog. So other than that,
Okay.
is there any
Yeah.
contradiction that till now?
Okay,
Okay.
good. I take note. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So in that case, what's the thing is what I'm trying to think, it's like there is no necessity for modeling the error catalog inside the node templates or inside the blueprint service template. Okay, in blueprints, inside the blueprints. So we have a catalog component nodes that what is the implementation. Okay, and then we can return back that error, and then based on the logs we can easily trace back to the error catalog by logging to the corresponding error management system. Okay, that's all we want to do that. Okay, other than that, I don't see that any other modeling that we want to do it, okay, inside the component or inside the workflow or inside the blueprints. Okay, I don't think so. This is my assumption, and if that is the case, then I'm okay. I don't have any other questions. Other than that, we can discuss that. Yeah. Is that same?
Yep. Thank
You
you,
are there, right?
Brenda.
Yes. So Brenda, what you're saying is that we are not going to model the errors within the node template itself, within that component. It will be done just in the error catalog.
One way that we want to take that. Okay, whether we are going to have a common error modeling system or it's like a node template based error modeling system. Okay, so if it is a node template based modeling system, we have a lot of disadvantages. Only thing is like by logging into the CBA, and only that we can understand that what kind of error message that we have and what kind of recovery patterns we want to follow, and then we can't reuse the same error code for multiple components also. So since we have a flexibility to model that error in a different way, so each one will have their different way of error modeling. Have a common system, then we can have a common error modeling, or it's like a common catalog. From that catalog, the component, whatever the error thrown, okay, it's strict to that pattern of using that particular error codes there, whatever we model.
Right. I think we want a standard. We don't want, we would like to get to a standard type of error codes itself. But we don't want them to be so generic as well. So it will be something very specific to the different errors. I guess there could be a standard for resource resolution, a standard for connectivity models of error codes that we can have as well.
Exactly. So what we can do is like we can error model that. Okay, we can create a error catalogs of error. And we can denote somewhere, it's like, no, these are all the group of error codes that we are using in a component. Only that modeling that we can do it in a node template or node type perspective, because that is the implementation, right? We implement error codes, we implement a particular functionality. If there is any error, then we want to use that particular error codes, and we can just tell that by looking the component itself, these are all the error codes that we are trying to use there. Okay, that level of information is only that we can give. And one more thing, we don't want to duplicate the error modeling in a error catalog system, and as well as node templates, node types also.
Yes, we don't want that duplication. I agree. We want it in one place.
So, Kapil, you have any other thoughts in this?
Kapil, you're on mute. I think Kapil's on mute. Let me.
Okay, and another question is, I have, it's another important thing is like, we are not going to handle, or we are not going to use the gRPC error code or HTTP error code, okay? Because we may want to involve a multiple protocols, okay, different way of protocols, but the representation of the functional error, it is going to be common, right? So only the interfacing error and only the connectivity based and protocol based error that we can inherit, and then we can try to use that. If there is any functional error inside the functional error, it should be common irrespective of the protocols, irrespective of the way of accessing and interfacing.
Yeah, but I think we should still leverage the HTTP code, no? I mean, we don't want to return a 200 if there's an error, right?
Yeah, that's why I try to differentiate with that, because in gRPC and HTTP code, there's two different code annotations. So that's why sometimes
that is the point. Okay. So
still we can leverage the message
with the 200. Don't want to annotate that annotation with HTTP error code. Okay, we can say that 200 it's a success internal to CDS, but we don't want to annotate with either gRPC code or it's like a HTTP code. Okay, in that way it makes sense, because we are dealing with multiple protocols. Okay, so the representation, the handling of representations may vary from one place to another place. Since it is a common code for across that, okay, we don't want to stick to that pattern of particular protocol based error codes or status.
But for each protocol we should still have a basic understanding of success or error, right? Protocol based, and then if we want the details of the error, then we use the common error that is the CDS error, which is binded into maybe an object in the gRPC client, and inside the return of the.
Let me explain that particular point. Okay, think about like interfacing error, we can't avoid that. Okay, so we can't translate also upfront. Okay, so say for an example, if you are trying to connect to gRPC, and if there is a failure, it is going to be a gRPC failure, not that application failure. Just looks like a gRPC failure. Okay, and if you are trying to connect with HTTP, then it is also going to be HTTP error only. Okay, that is not an issue. Okay, that we want to handle with respect to the controller or sorry, with respect to the handler, because the handler knows that whether it is trying to connect with REST or it is trying to connect with gRPC. Okay, so that error code we can't avoid that, and then that has to handle in a certain way of how the protocol should handle. That's not an issue. But I'm trying to talk about in terms of protocol functional issues or functional errors. Okay, so you are trying to make a gRPC. gRPC is success. Assume that gRPC is success. Okay, on the both end it is success. But internally because of this particular functionality, we are getting an error. Okay, so it's like say for an example, database, you couldn't find a particular data while processing, or couldn't find a particular file. So that is a functional error. So we don't want to translate that error into protocol error. Instead of that, make that gRPC communication as a success, and inside that is the reason we model that error. Okay, error for request response. Okay, that internally we model that error. Okay, so it means like the communication may be success. Internal functionality may be.
So let me rephrase it because I'm not sure I agree with this. So let's say we do a REST call where the resource resolution failed because there's a problem in the blueprint, okay, in DCB. It should return 500. It should not return 200.
So that is the point I'm trying to say.
What's the specificity of the error, which is a function? Because if you do a REST call and the REST call is rejected for a functional reason, it should not return 200.
No, let me. Okay, I may understand your question, but let me ask another question actually. Okay, in this case.
Okay.
So in that case, you want to handle the functional errors with respect to the protocol. Okay, the error handling. Okay, next comes to the error handling and recovery. Okay, so there won't be. We can't have a generic code understand the functional errors. Okay, so that is the point I'm trying to say that. Okay, if it is a interfacing error, let that handler handles that. Okay, the REST-based kind of error. And if you want to have a common error handling mechanism, okay, so in that case, what according to your case, okay, if you try to explain that if you want to handle that REST error, even though if it is a blueprint error, okay, if it is a REST error, how I want to have that mechanism to handle in a different way the REST. Since we are dealing with multiple protocols, okay, we can access that either with the Kafka or gRPC or REST. Okay.
Well, Kafka,
so
there's
in that
no
case,
error return, right?
Yeah.
So, but let me maybe add some specificity on this. Is the CDS error object should be returned in both the gRPC client and REST client. It may be a different format because maybe REST is in JSON and gRPC is actually an object that is defined in the protocol, right? So as part of the return object, then we should have a field there, which is the CDS error object, for instance. And those are common in both REST and gRPC. But when we do the REST call of process to the REST, and we return a 500, then it's the caller's job to look at the CDS error object and figure out if it's what type of error, which is common for gRPC and REST. And this should be done inside I mean, it should be fairly easy. I mean, it's the execution controller of REST and gRPC.
No, what is the difference between them? Okay, think about like the communication is successful. Okay, I don't want to fail out that communication, right? So if it is a functional error, why I want to fail out that? Okay, so it is internal to that because the error handling, the status depends on the client observability. Okay, for certain case, even though inside that application error, okay, it depends on my understanding of that response. Sometimes my understanding of the response may not be an error. Okay, so based on that exception, okay, I may have a failure, so I may re-trigger that. So in that case, why I want to treat that business error Because business error, it's not like a generic way of representing from one client to another client and then one situation to another situation. So that is the point. Okay, what I'm trying to say that, no, this is my option. Okay, I don't have a disagreement with anything. Okay, if you want to model, that's it's a way of modeling. But what I'm trying to say is like, if it is and communication is successful, okay, well, it's fine. Okay, internal error, anyhow, we are passing that message, okay, to understand that what is the nature of that response, whether it is success, and we are able to easily translate that, okay, from that response. Then why unnecessarily we want to make the system to behave an error which is not a protocol or transport level error? Okay, it is a functional error. Functional error, I can handle that from that message. Anyhow, it has its response, it has its object. Based on that object, I can. So in that way, generic way, in a safe way. Okay, in a safe way, we can model that. Okay, or it can process throughout the place in a common way. Okay, so that way, I will know that I can decide that from that message whether it is a really error or not error. Okay, so protocol should not throw an error. That is the point.
I don't, yeah, I mean, if you do a REST call and the object doesn't exist, it's going to give you that the object that is going to give you an error. It only gives you a success when everything actually works properly.
No, REST is different. I'm not talking about all the generic. Okay, I'm not talking about the generic way of okay. The REST, okay, if it is accessible only the REST endpoint, that is fine. I'm trying to talk about the CBA. I'm trying to talk about the common functionality that we expose. Okay, certain designer APIs we are not exposing as a service. Okay, we are not exposing as a gRPC. Okay, only we are exposing certain things in a common way, like a process, artifact management, okay, and then other, not more than that. It's like a 4 to 5, okay, which can support in a multiple protocols. Okay, that particular piece only I'm trying to talk about that. Specific kind of an API, I'm not talking about that. UI specific kind of an API, I'm not talking about that.
So, Brenda,
I still think that if we don't have a CDS error, we should return a 200, and if we have one, then we should not return 200. That's my view on that.
So, Brenda, what I understand on what you are saying is that we always have, for the specific kind of request like REST or gRPC, we will always differentiate the protocol error and the CGS specific error. For example, here we will capture all the CGS function error in the sub error, where we will have in component CGS component error, we will have the different error message and the code that is specific to CGS. And for the protocol error, we will have code here, then the message, for example, 500, like Sebastian was saying, you have 500 error to return to
no.
REST client.
I don't. We do not. I don't. And this, maybe I'm gonna agree with Brenda. We do not want anything protocol related into CDS error message. Okay.
Exactly.
Right
that
now,
is the point I'm
gRPC
trying to.
already. Yeah, this I agree. So in gRPC, it already returns a specific type of object. The only thing we want to do is change this type of object to add a field, which will include the CDS error object, and then the clients will just go and look, hey, is this field null? Then there's no error. If it's not null, then there's an error. That kind of thing, right? That's my view on this. So nothing should be protocol specific inside the CDS error object. It's just that if the REST controller receive a CDS error object, which is triggered from the process, then maybe now the question is, should it return 500 within and having this CDS error object embedded into the JSON return or not? And it's the same thing with gRPC.
But you mean we will always have 500, because we can have 500 or 400 or depend on the.
So you have not a non-200 HTTP error. I mean, we can decide which one we want to use, but it's just to tell that if you use REST and it's not a 200, then you know that something didn't work properly, and then you do the proper, checking of the code
So, Sebastian and Steve, why we are considering only standard error codes? Why we can't have the custom error codes? For example, a resource resolution is failing, so we can have error code something like CDS-RR-500 or 404, whatever it may be.
Yes,
and it's something.
But we don't want this logic to be brought to the protocol. That's what I mean.
So we still
don't want to map CDS error to HTTP code. Sorry.
Right. So I think what we're saying is that from protocol perspective, those protocol errors will continue to be provided, but we also include a specific error catalog for all the errors that we have for the different microservices that fail.
Okay, let me clarify once again. Okay, whatever the CD is highlighted in red, that is a custom application code. It won't represent any HTTP or gRPC.
It's not protocol related. Yeah.
Not a protocol related. Okay, that to be a catalog that we are modeling. Either it may be using any pattern like a CDS-200, CDS-500, or that's up to us. Okay, that we can model that.
That's fine.
Yeah, call it like catalog error code.
Okay.
Only now the question that we have is like, okay, if there is any failure or success on the code, okay, based on that code, whether we want to translate or not. That is the only thing. Okay, that is the only question.
Yeah, man, and when I talk about translation, it's not a translate. It's like whatever error, CDS error from the catalog was triggered. We just want to return a non-200 HTTP code. It could be the same for all of the error. It doesn't matter because
it's the point. I'm slightly just it's like a little bit of having that. Okay, why? Because sometimes I may be sending a warning error. Okay, it may not be an error actually. Okay, there is no reason, or is there any reason behind that converting into protocol error? Because based on the client observation, we'll know that what kind of error. So if a client feels that, then client has to handle two different errors and then extra piece of logic that we want to handle. Okay, if it is not a protocol error, then automatically I am going to process that response status, obviously. Okay, for all scenarios, I'm going to process that response status. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, for warning, obviously you would not return an error code, right? It's only when there's an actual error. It's really. I think the idea is, if you wanted to do something, the resource resolution, and it failed, it needs to be brought up for whatever reason. It could be a problem in the CBA. It could be I was not able to connect to the source rest. It could be whatever reason.
So assume that one more thing. If it is a messaging error, okay, think about like the response you want to return in a queue. Okay, that you want to put that.
Wait, yeah, but the response should not be included into the CDS error object, right? At this point, there will not be a CDS error object if it's the response. Like for instance, the resolve template, right?
Okay, what are you trying to say?
So hold on one second. So let me understand this. Sebastian, Brenda, we're both saying that protocol error codes are not managed by this catalog.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. No.
No or yes?
No.
It's not managed.
It's not managed by this. The answer is yes, right?
It's not managed by the catalog. It's the protocol error.
Okay. Yes. So the only thing that this catalog manages is application error codes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So by saying this, where do we still have a dispute? I think we're saying the same thing here.
Yes, but this is
exactly
before the protocol. So here's I'm gonna try to simplify what I'm trying to say. If we make a REST call and there is no error, there is no CDS error triggered, we return HTTP 200. If there is a CDS error, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Then we return 500. This is the only thing I'm saying.
And then
I don't care what the CDS
but
error
you
is.
would return whatever that protocol is supposed to return for that error, right?
Yeah.
And then you would return additional object that will have the application error code.
Exactly. We are saying the same thing. Yes. We are saying the same thing. Sure.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying.
Brenda, Kapil, you guys have any objections on that point?
Exactly. That is the reason. No, just I'm trying to say that I'm not objecting. Okay. Only I have a question. It's like, okay, is there any necessity to translate it? Because anyhow, I'm processing that message. Okay, the processing message, that status, and whenever we are trying to deal with the different protocols like a messaging, the messaging does not hold. Okay, the concept there is always it is a connection. It can connect and it can publish and it can receive the message. Talk about the protocol.
Yes.
If it is really a protocol or a transport error. Okay, so they will send that message and we are going to process the message. So the message processing, the response processing by the client, it depends on different nature also. And for messaging, always we assume that protocol is a successful. Okay, and then we consume that message and we understand the message whether it is a success or failure. Why can't we apply the same pattern throughout the places? That is my question actually. So why we want to extra one more layer of handling that error, handling that transport error, and then handling that application error. Instead of that, it's
the same logic as when you have an application and there's an error and the application exit. You want the return code to be different than 0. Okay, this is like it's like in all of the Linux subsystems. This is how it works. Now, if you're talking about publishing to Kafka and then receiving a response from Kafka, this is different. It's a different protocol. So obviously, you're not going to have an error code. So what you're going to have instead is you're going to have the answer, and then the answer is going to include the error. That's how it works when you have publish subscribe. But this is not how when you use HTTP, it has the concept of status code. This is part of the protocol. You have to abide to this. This is what I'm trying to say. And then in the gRPC side, we have to abide to the way gRPC handles error code when client makes gRPC calls. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you do a REST call and there's an error, it needs to return a non-200 HTTP code return. That's part of the protocol that you use, HTTP. It has nothing to do with the way CDS handles it. It's really how CDS handles the return code for the specific REST implementation. That's my take. That's what I mean.
That I'm not for denying that, but only question I'm raising that it's like how you will translate that error code, that application error code. Okay, the 500, what are the 500 is the internal server error, because people are trying to misuse that error for a different reason. Okay, and there is a reason for 200. For 200 is like communication is successful. So that response may depend on what are the MIPI scenarios. So that is the point I'm trying to bring. Okay, it is not like there. We should not error it out and then you want to capture it. It's like a protocol. The HTTP doesn't talk about any internals of that. It talks about only the server error, only this error, and later we added that. Okay, so that is the point I'm trying to make that. So we can have that error, protocol error, with respect to authentication, or only with respect to communication, or only with respect to if there is any internal server failure. Rest other thing I will treat internal as a communication is successful and I observe that message. Okay, that is the only thing that I'm trying to say. I'm not denying that. Okay, so if you want to process extra piece of logic, then I'm fine with that. Yeah.
So, okay, good guys. I think I take all the notes. So I kind of understand what you were saying. So we were kind of saying the same thing. I think if you agree of what we had discussed, I will maybe send another design to you to review. I also count on bring that to maybe see how we will do the error catalog and all the component modeling error.
Exactly. That's the other thing. It's like I'm not. Only this. Yeah. Only the point is like why we need extra processing. That's it. Okay, that's fine. I'm fine. I'm fine in the both way. Okay. That's not an issue.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Yuri?
Okay, let me stop recording.